get a good workout as a printer. So what I'm doing here is I just laid out my ink. And part of the problem I'm having is that this ink was sitting in the back of my boss's car for 2 hours this morning.
Cold.
There's pine resin and linseed oil in it.
Yeah,
It gets very
yeah.
sticky and very cold. It
Yeah.
doesn't flow very well, so I gotta work it around a little bit. Try and smooth that ink out. See what we have here to work with. One thing you'll notice is that I don't use ink rollers. They haven't been invented yet. We're going to use these things right
Oh
here.
dear God in heaven.
These are
Wow.
called ink balls. We have to make these every morning. At the end of the day, we take the leather off. I soak it in a bucket of water at night so the ink doesn't dry. And then in the morning, I squeeze out the water and nail these back together over a handful of wool. It's basically those three components I have on the barrel right there. And we use these to spread ink onto the type from about 1450 until about 1830, nearly the first 300 years or 400 years of printing. We pick up a small amount of ink just like this here. We spread it around nice and evenly. And I'll do the messy job so you guys don't get dirty because, as you can see, I'll be covered in it by the end of the day. We just take this ink, and the person that's in charge of putting the ink on the type, their job is called the beater. I guess why?
Oh my God.
So I lay down a very light coating of ink across the type. I don't want too much ink. If I use too much ink, what will happen is it will run in and fill in the letters, and it makes for very bad quality prints. I'd like to not do bad quality prints. So one person is the beater. They apply the ink. While they're doing that, someone else, their job being the puller, because they ultimately end up pulling the bar on the press, they're putting the paper in place on the press to make the print. This keeps ink from my hands from getting on the paper, but more importantly, it speeds up the process. With two of us on this press, we can make a print every 15 seconds. That is about the speed of most modern inkjet printers. So we lay down our paper just like this here, and now I have 3 jobs that I am going to need help with. So I have 2 jobs. One of them needs 2 people, one of them needs 1 person. I need 2 people to pull on the bar here. I need 1 person to help me crank this into the press. Who wants to do what?
I want to crank.
All right, perfect.
All right.
So, excellent. So you can step right over here then. I'm going to have you help me with the first part of this. We're going to turn this crank this way like this, very slowly until this edge right here lines up with this marker right here.
So that was that.
Correct. It is 500 pounds. It is fairly heavy. A little more.
Come on, Tampa, you can do it.
That's close enough. That's good there. All right, I need someone to help me with the first pull. Who's going to pull first?
I'll do it.
All right, come right on over here. We can only print half at a time because the press is constructed of wood. It only generates 2,000 pounds of pressure. That's not enough to print the whole document.
Huh.
And so what you're going to do is you're going to put both hands on the wood here. You're going to lean all the way back until it hits the edge of the wood here like you're rowing a boat to print the first half.
There you go,
Just
all the
like
way
that.
back.
All the way back.
Oh.
Perfect. All right, you can let that go. All right, and have you
Crank
help me
it.
out, crank it the rest of the way. You're going to go the rest of the way until it lines up at the end there.
All right. So with this marker.
Yeah, I'll give it a little bit of a push, get it started. There we go.
Good job.
Perfect. All right, now I have you help me print the second half. So again, both hands
All
on
the
the
way.
wood and lean all the way back like you're rowing a boat.
Oh,
Just like
I
that.
got it.
Perfect. Excellent. That's good. You only have to do that 3,998 more times today. Print 2,000 sheets a day, and 2 pulls for every sheet means 4,000 pulls on this press. Do that 6 days a week, and as I said, 12 to 15 hours a day. It's 1 million pulls a year for 500,000 sheets.
What do you do with all the sheets?
We sell them actually.
Wow.
The declarations that we print here is how we keep the shop open. The various other prints that we produce, like Printers End, we're not funded by the government. Something about printing too much treason. So what we should have now, we can listen. As I mentioned before, how the ink was very sticky and very thick today because of the temperature. That's the pine resin in the ink. The pine resin is what allows that ink to transfer to the paper. So I have the ink on the type. As we now press this paper against the type, it's still stuck to the type. As I lift this up, you should be able to hear that pine resin separate with the ink from the type.
Ooh.
And what we have is the very first print of the day. You
Oh,
guys
wow.
can step
Wow.
pull this down here. You guys can come back here for a picture.
Oh, that's beautiful.
You can even sign it.
And we'll have you guys sign it. I'm gonna send you guys home with this one.
Oh, that's
That's what
awesome.
happens when you work in the printing office.
There we go, we get everybody in.
That's awesome.
Now, to start working in a printing office like this, you only have to be about 9 or 10 years old. That's the starting age as an apprentice. You sign a contract that lasts about 7 to 10 years. And for that time, you live with the printer. You rarely see your family. You only have to work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. It's not so bad. You don't get paid. But you learn a skill. And more importantly, the printer's going to feed you two or three meals a day and provide you with 2 pairs of clothes a year as well. So you're having a place to live, food to eat, and if your family's not doing so well, that's a great opportunity to have 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
And decent clothing. And you'll work those days with the printer. And what you will do is you learn to set type. The very first thing you learn, you'll spend about half of your apprenticeship learning how to set type. First day of your apprenticeship, the printer's going to take that lower type case there, contains about 25,000 individual letters. It's going to dump it out. You're going to put it back, one letter at a time. It takes about 12 to 14 hours. But after that, you don't need to look at that type case anymore. You don't have to look at the letters as you pick them up because you know exactly where every letter is. So we set all our type blind. We don't look at anything. The first time we see what we set in type is when we print the first copy off the press. It takes far too long to set type if you're looking at every letter because this is 3 letters. It's a 6-point font. It'd be a modern 4-point font today, and that's what every newspaper is set as.
Holy cow.
Paper's expensive, labor is cheap. In Texas case, actually, labor is free. And so you're at set very small type for your newspaper because, well, if you can cram as much as you can on that paper, you can only do it, you can get away with putting a newspaper on a single sheet. Print it 2 sides, fold it in half to make 4 pages. That's cheaper to pay someone to work longer setting smaller type than it is to add an extra page to your newspaper. In addition to that, newspapers only come out once a week. It takes 4 days to produce a newspaper. About 12 hours spent in setting the type alone. That's 1 full work day, and then 3 days of production. Because it only comes out once a week, you also want to make sure you get as much information onto that paper as possible. So we set it with the smallest type possible. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have you guys sign this form. I'm going to step right over this way here. I have a pen somewhere here, right here. You guys can sign it right on the bottom there. And what I'll do is I'll roll that up. You can take that one home with you. I want to leave it rolled up overnight. It takes about 24 hours for the ink to dry. The reason I can roll it up and sell them right off the press, and you do this in the way I stack them like that to print, is because I'm using raised type. I only have 2,000 pounds of pressure, but it's enough to leave an impression of the letters on paper. And the ink sits in the impression, not on the surface. Any
That's great.
questions?
No, that was great, thank you.
That's the top again.
That's cool.
You guys have just printed the Declaration of Independence, just like John Gill did in his printing office in 1776, and just like Benjamin Franklin did in his brother's printing office and his own printing office before that. All right, so we'll roll this one up into a tube. You guys can take this one with you. And I say you want to leave it rolled up overnight, give the ink a chance to dry, and when it's dry in the morning, you can actually pull it out. If you run your hand across the back of the paper, you can feel the letters pressed into the paper. So who wants to sign their apprentice contract to be a printer for the next 10 years?
Garrett, you got this.
Yeah, you just leave it rolled up. Yeah, it won't hurt to stay rolled up.
Traveling back to Los Angeles.
All right, yeah, no, that'll be
Better
fine.
just leave it rolled up to
Yeah. As long as it's at least 24 hours, you're good to go.
that makes That's really cool.
Declaration of Independence.
This version of the Declaration that we all just printed is the version printed here in Boston on July 17th, 1776 by this printing office. There are only 3 surviving original copies. They sell for about $900,000. We had access to one of them to produce this, so we actually measured all 9,000 letters off of one of the originals.
Wait, there's 9,000 letters?
9,000